guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Meredith and this is my knitting podcast. Today I have just a couple of finished objects, a few works in progress, and quite a lot of acquisitions from Christmas time. I hope that everybody had a really lovely holiday break. Myself and my husband just got home from visiting my parents this last week, and it was really nice to just kind of get away, especially since I was on break from school. For anybody who is just dropping in, who's new here, I'm a nursing student, so my breaks are very much cherished. And my parents, they live a little over 3 hours away from me, so I don't get to see them very often. So visiting with them is also something that I really look forward to. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and talk about what I'm wearing. So again, for anybody who's new here, I've talked about it in my previous videos. This last year, my husband and I have been dealing with a moth issue in our house. I don't feel like going over the whole thing. You can watch my old videos and they talk about it. But basically the gist is that quite a lot of my projects and my yarn this summer were, for a lack of a better way of saying it, infested with moths, moth eggs, moth larvae. It was honestly horrendous. But I was unwilling to just kind of like throw everything away. So I did everything I could to kind of figure out how I could salvage my projects. And this sweater actually happens to be one of those projects. I put pretty much everything that was made out of yarn that also had moths or moth eggs in them, I put into the freezer. I had read that you can basically kill moths by either extreme cold temperatures or extreme hot temperatures. One of the things I had read had said that during the summertime, if you have garments that have moths in them or whatever, you can throw them in your car on a hot day, leave them in there for a few days, and it will basically fry the eggs up. But by the time I had read that, it was already fall, so it wasn't going to happen. So I just threw everything into the freezer with the hopes that it would be cold enough to kill them. I left everything in there for a little over a month, and right before we went up north to my parents, I pulled pretty much everything out, gave everything a nice wash, laid it out. They just dried while we were gone, and then we came back, and I did a pretty good look over of all the items, and they look good. But everything that was pulled out of the freezer is going to basically be quarantined for the next couple of weeks to a month, just to make sure that there aren't any stragglers that are gonna, get into the rest of my yarn, my new projects, whatever. But anyways, so this is one of those projects. I'm so excited to have it back out of the freezer and be able to wear it. This is my Malwina. I'm pretty sure that's right. Malwina. I'm pretty sure it's Malwina sweater by Alex of Vert and Rose. And I test knit this sweater earlier this year. I can't say exactly when, but earlier in the wintertime of 2022. I think this was her first or one of her first patterns that she was releasing. And when I saw the test call for it, I saw the sleeves and I thought that they were so cool. Sorry, they're massive. And I had never knit anything like this, so I figured, why not? And I had actually never test knit before either, so I was just kind of getting into a space where I felt comfortable applying for that type of thing. It was a really fun knit. I don't know if you can see, I'll try and get close, but the raglans, it's a raglan sweater, and the raglans are this, not quite a cable, I don't think, was it? I really don't know how to explain it. It's kind of, I would think, like the Jenny sweater by PetiteKnit. Yarn over, I don't remember exactly, but it was not a cable. And sorry, I'll turn around, but they're on the back as well, which is kind of nice. I like that they mirror. And then the bottom is just like a little rib, nothing special. It's all about the sleeves for this one. But in her pattern, she suggests using drops Nepal, which is what I decided to use. I did it in the color light beige or beige mix. It's an Aran weight yarn, I believe, and we knit this on, oh shoot, I don't know, hold on. It was knit on US 10s, which is 6mm needles. So it was a pretty quick knit as far as gauge went. Like this portion, the body was really quick. The raglan portion did take a little bit of like, when we were in the test knit, it took a little bit of time because we had to, there were some discrepancies that had to be fixed in the language, but after that, this was really quick. The arm was really quick up until the sleeve, or not to the sleeve, to the bell portion. And it's not really laying very well right now, and that's because of how I blocked it, but when I walk around, it looks a lot better. There's a lot going on in these sleeves when you're knitting it, so it took a while. She basically gives the option in the chart where you can do either, I think it's 3 repeats of the chart around or 4. I did 4, so I did the bigger one. I wanted them to be very like balloony, voluminous. Some people chose to only do 3. Still looked great. It just wasn't as poofy. I very much enjoyed the entire test knit. I love wearing this sweater. I have a pair of bell-bottom jeans that I wear it with all the time. It's just a fun, fancy sweater, and it's very warm. I'm actually getting very warm right now. Yeah, I will say that Drops Nepal is soft. I don't have any issues with it per se wearing it, but it is just slightly itchy, just slightly. So if you are the type of person that is very sensitive to itch, I would consider either holding, if you're ever going to use Drops Nepal, not necessarily for this project, but in general, I would recommend holding it with a mohair. Or if you're doing this project and you're considering using Drops Nepal, but you're concerned about itch, I would consider maybe doing a different yarn choice, because it definitely, because it is such a warm fabric, the warmer you get, the itchier it is also. So just a little heads up on that. But all in all, this was a great project. I highly recommend it. Alex was awesome. And I also test knit, hold on, actually, I'll get it. Okay, so like I was saying about the whole moth thing earlier, a lot of the stuff that I pulled out of the freezer is in quarantine right now. This was actually a test knit that I also did for Alex. shortly after the Malwina sweater. And this is her Malwina sock. So she made this pattern shortly after this sweater, and it is because she took the lace pattern from the Malwina sweater, from the sleeves, and she made it into a sock. That's the front of it. That's the best way I can show it. But so I applied to test knit this one as well, and it's a lovely sock, but because it is smaller yarn, obviously, smaller needles, obviously, this lace was not my favorite to do on such a small gauge. I don't know why. I really enjoyed doing it on the sleeves. I did not really enjoy it on the sock. That was just my personal opinion. However, I do love the sock. I want to say it was like a 2x2 cuff and then a 1x3 or a 2x3 the rest of the ways. So it fits real nice. But nevertheless, I never made the second sock because shortly after I finished this sock is when the whole moth problem started, and actually the ball of yarn that I had caked up from this yarn had gotten attacked by moths pretty badly, like to the point where the yarn was breaking. It's in a bag over there as well, quarantined, so I'm hoping that I will be able to do the second sock, and I'm hoping that since quite a few months have gone by, I will be motivated to do the lace. But if you're looking for like a sock pattern that does have a really beautiful lace, that is just intriguing enough, but not too complicated, this is a great pattern. I do look forward to doing the second sock. I think for me personally, when it comes to socks, I just prefer doing basic stockinette socks or ribbed. It has nothing to do with the pattern. I think it's just me personally. So those are some of my finished knits from earlier this year that were in the freezer. And actually, before I move on, I have one more finished knit from in the freezer that I am just so happy that I hopefully saved, because this is the first garment that I ever knit. It was my New Year's cast on last year, and up until this garment, all I had really knit were hats, scarves. I had knit my Augustine's 22 bow, but that was really it, and one pair of socks, but they were like super chunky socks. So this is my vest number 2 spring edition by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and I'll try to wear it hopefully coming up soon when I'm podcasting, so you can get a better idea of it. But it's just a very lightweight, simple v-neck vest. So when I was knitting this, or when I decided I wanted to knit this, the way that it came about was I had, for the first time, gone into my local yarn shop, and I bought one, I can't remember if it was 1 or 2. I think it might have been 2 skeins of a baby alpaca. I'm not sure who, it might have been like a Cascade, I'm not really sure, but I loved it. It was so soft, and I just wanted to make something. So I went home super eager, and I was just, I don't know why I had the motivation, but I was like, I can make a garment, I think. And so I searched and searched for a pattern that was hopefully gonna meet the yardage that I had. And I was very naive at the time. I had obviously never knit a garment. I had no idea really how to read that kind of stuff in a pattern yet. I was just kind of giving it a go. So I learned quite a lot about like gauge. I mean, not that I didn't already know about gauge beforehand, but I really got a sense of it when I was doing this project, as well as yardage and substituting yarn. So substituting yarn I feel like is really difficult, but once you kind of get a good idea for what you need to look for, it gets a lot easier. So I had 2 skeins of this yarn. Oh god, it's so soft. Oh, I just want to make all of my garments out of this yarn. It's the best. Anyways, so I had 2 skeins of it. Went home, looked through a bunch of patterns, and I ended up deciding that I came across this vest, and for whatever reason, I thought that I had enough. I didn't. I ended up, I think, having to buy 2 or 3 more skeins. And each time that I needed another one, I would only go back and buy 1 more, because that was how inexperienced I was with understanding that stuff. I don't, it seems silly now, like looking back, because all I needed to do was make sure that it was the right gauge yarn, or like weighted yarn, you know, and then make sure I had the right amount of yards or meters. And I just don't know where I did the math or whatever, but the yarn was on gauge. I mean, I got the right size vest for the size that I knit. And in the end, honestly, it was a lot more expensive than I was expecting to spend on a vest. Because like I said, it was 100% baby alpaca. So each skein was like at least $16. So I really do love this. I was so proud of myself after I had finished it. I love it. It's probably one of my most cherished pieces. And hopefully I'll wear it soon so you guys can see it. But there it is, my vest number 2, spring edition by My Favorite Things Knitwear. Hopefully moth free. And let's go ahead and do some recently finished objects. So in my last full podcast, I talked about some green yarn that I had bought in anticipation of knitting up my husband something, and he requested socks with it, and I bought a pattern from Sari Nordland that I intended on knitting them with, and that was all fine and dandy, and I had full intention of doing so. In the meantime, I have previously told my brother-in-law that I will eventually knit him a hat. He loves beanies. He wears them all the time. And so I figured he'd probably be pretty knit-worthy. And I told him, I think back in the summertime, I asked him what color he would want or whatever. And I just didn't want to go into Christmas time without holding up to that. I don't know. I just felt like I had kind of made a promise and I didn't want to show up without it. Even if he had forgotten, you know, on the chance that he hadn't, I didn't want to be that person. So I went to my local yarn shop looking for some yarn to make him an Oslo hat, because it's a pretty quick knit and I feel like it's a pretty good quality knit. And I already own the pattern. So went, looked for some yarn, and I ended up purchasing, don't have the tag with me. Hold on. Guys, it is so hot in this sweater. So if you're looking for something warm, this is the one. Anyways, so I ended up buying 2 skeins of Manos del Uruguay Alegria Superwash Merino. And I got it in the color Galaxy Blue. It is 75% Merino Superwash and 25% polyamide. And it's a fingering weight. It was 100 grams, I'm struggling. It was 100 grams skein, 445 yards. So with the Oslo Hat, I held it double and it met gauge. But the kicker is that I brought it home and I fell in love with the yarn. And I asked my husband, I told him, I said, I just bought this yarn and I really think that you might like it. So what I'm gonna do is show it to you next to the green yarn that you had picked, or that I had picked for you. And you can choose which yarn you like better, and then based off of that, we'll move forward on what I'm gonna make you. So this was the new yarn, the Alegria, that I bought for my brother-in-law's hat. This is what's left because I already used it, but it is just so beautiful. I believe it is hand dyed. I think in Uruguay, I suck at pronunciation, but so I don't know why, I just really loved this yarn. I really liked the story behind it, and I thought that the colors would look really nice on my husband. He has kind of like an olive skin tone and pretty much black hair, so I just thought it would complement him nicely because it's kind of variegated between like this really stormy navy blue and then like a turquoise, and then this was the green that I had bought. And when I asked him which one he liked, he liked this one, but he said he really liked this one. So my plans changed, as they always do. I asked him if it was okay if I made him a hat out of this, and we just scratched the sock idea, and he was totally all about that. So I ended up making my husband an Oslo hat out of this yarn. And here it is. And I think it turned out real nice color-wise. I really love making the Oslo hat. This is the 3rd one I've made now. And this one is probably my favorite one, actually. But the colors look really nice on him. I think they look nice on me. The hat fits him very nicely, and I went ahead and surprised him, because this wasn't a surprise, obviously he knew about it, but because I had quite a lot of yarn left over, just as I did when I made the Oslo hat for my brother, I made my husband a pair of kind of modified penny gloves. I still held the yarn double to make them, and I don't remember what the original cast on number was, but whatever it was, I added 2 stitches to it just because he has really big hands, so I wanted to make sure that it was gonna fit him in the palm. And I think they turned out really nice. I didn't make his cuff quite as long because 1, I didn't know if I was gonna have enough yarn, and 2, I just felt like he probably didn't want like a cuff. Mine come all the way down to like here, and I just felt like he didn't need that. And quite honestly, he had told me previously that he did not want, I had previously offered earlier this year to make him a pair of penny gloves after I had made mine. And he told me no thanks, because he, as I did, also thought that they were pretty much useless to us, because in Michigan it just gets really cold, and the idea of like your fingers not being covered seems kind of counterintuitive. So he just didn't want them. I made them for him anyways, and my rationale on that was that, one, I had the yarn, and two, my husband is a cigarette smoker, which he's probably not going to be happy that I just told you guys that, but he is. And I just figured they would be perfect for him to like go outside, smoke a cigarette, you know, because your fingers are free, and then that's it. So these, to me, I feel like these are his cigarette smoking mitts. Yeah, so he was very surprised about these and very excited about them. He thought it was really funny that I made them for him anyways, and he really liked the hat. So this ended up being a really cute gift, and I really enjoyed the yarn. I really enjoyed making both patterns again. Both of these patterns, the Oslo Hat and the penny gloves, are very reliable patterns. I'm sure most of you know that, but if you haven't already made them, I highly recommend them. I've gone back to both multiple times, and I probably will continue to go back to both for many years. Which leads me into the green yarn combo that originally was supposed to be for his Christmas gift for the socks. I'm not making those anymore. I do own the pattern, so I'll probably make them in the future with an actual DK weight sock yarn, which is what it calls for. But I'm not gonna make them right now. I don't have the desire, I don't have the motivation. It's not on my quota. So instead, basically what I did for Christmas was I put this stuff in a bag and gave it to my brother-in-law as an IOU gift, and I am going to make him the cashmere hat by, I want to say, Gregoria Fibers. Hold on. Yes, the cashmere beanie by Gregoria Fibers. I do need to make a gauge swatch, but I don't think I'm gonna need the mohair. I think I'm gonna be able to meet it just with this. I haven't gotten to it yet though, and I told him, I basically asked him to give me like a month to get this to him. He said take 2, bless him. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not heavily motivated to cast this on at the moment, but I do like to hold true to my word when I'm gifting people things. So this is, even though I have now talked about this yarn in 3 videos and have not done squat with it, I do intend on casting it on in January for sure. So there's that. And I did do a whole video dedicated to these next 2 projects I'm going to show, so I'm not going to talk a whole lot about them. I just want to show them in case anybody here did not watch the video. That's totally okay. But this is one of my most recent finished projects as well. This is the George's bow. This was a test knit that I did for Kolibri by Johanna. It was a quick knit, very quick, very cute. My intention for this and my next project that I show you is to basically glue or fasten in some manner an alligator clip to the back so that I can use it as a hair bow. Great project, super easy, beginner friendly, as long as you can do mattress stitch. And if you can't do mattress stitch, this is a great project to learn it for. And then another quick finished object that I did in the last couple of weeks is my December bow by PetiteKnit. She just recently released this pattern as well. The construction is very similar to that of her Sophie shawl and Sophie scarf. So if you have already previously knit those and you enjoyed that construction, this is a great project for some leftover yarn. It's a bit bulkier than the other one, but I think it's a little more romantic. Again, nice, quick, easy knit. It would be really cute with an outfit like this. Yeah, go for it. This is definitely beginner friendly. So I want to say that is it for finished objects. So now I'm going to move on to my works in progress. Okay, so first up on the WIP parade is something that I have shown before, and it is my Novice Cardigan Mohair edition by PetiteKnit. I showed this in my first video, and I hadn't really done too much. I had gotten like maybe half of the yoke done, and quite honestly, I was not enjoying it very much. I think what was really robbing me of the joy of the knit was the amount of increases that there were on the increase rows. There were just a few times where I don't think I messed up stitches. Like, I didn't come up with the wrong amount of stitches ever. I was always correct with what I needed, but I really just don't like counting an excessive amount of stitches over and over again. And you have to do that a few times while you're knitting the yoke, and unless you want to take a gamble and hope that you have the right amount of stitches, which I don't like doing that. And then on top of that, this cardigan is knit with 2 strands of mohair, so it's just kind of finicky, honestly, to count that many stitches. And I just wasn't enjoying it, so I stopped working on it for a few months and put it on hold, used the needles for something else. And then what happened was I was working on a test knit for Kolibri by Johanna, for her George's sweater, which she released a couple of weeks ago. And I was really enjoying that test knit, but I ran out of yarn, and I ordered more at the end of November to finish it, and the yarn has still not made it to me. So I have not been able to work on that project, and that was really kind of my big project for November and the beginning of December. So I kind of had to find something else to work on other than an Oslo hat. That just wasn't going to be enough to keep me occupied. So I remembered that I had this cardigan in my stash just waiting for me to go back to it, and I decided I would give it a shot, see if the spark came back, you know, if there was anything to salvage between me and it. And well, here it is. First off, it's kind of hard to show it, and it looks kind of a mess right now, but you know what, the spark is back. I'm so happy I picked it back up. And I'm actually very excited to finish it. It is knit in 2 strands of Drops Kid Silk, and I did it in the color Chalk. So it's kind of like an off-white that leans like a gray color, like a gray hue. I don't know, in different lightings it looks different colors. Like sometimes it has like a pink hue, sometimes it has a blue hue, sometimes it has a yellow hue. So it's a really interesting color, but I'm really excited about it. Drops Kid Silk held together or held alone is not the softest mohair in the world, but it is affordable, so I'm not complaining about it, but it is just slightly itchy. I'm hoping that after like giving it a steam block or maybe even giving it a full washing and blocking, it'll soften up, but I don't think it'll be a big problem. I'm not extremely sensitive to itch, just slightly. So the funny thing though about this is, so when I picked it back up, I think I had gotten to about here on the yoke, like that increase. So I had quite a lot to do. And I had taken I had interchangeable needles on it, which I still do. And when I decided I didn't want to work on it anymore, I took those needles off and started working on something else. I probably worked on like 3 or 4 projects before I had picked this back up. So when I went to pick it up, all I had to do was put the needles back on, and I pulled up the pattern to see what needle size it was that I needed, and I put the needles on and started working on it. And I worked I think actually what happened was before I had set it down, I had knit all the way to here, and then when I picked it back up, I had to knit this section right here, this last section before splitting for the sleeves and body. So when I picked it back up, I put my needles on and started going, and I was so excited, and honestly I fell in love with the project all over again, and I was having a great time. And then when I was ready to split for the sleeves, I was reading the pattern, and I realized that the pattern was saying the body is knit on so-and-so size needles. And I was like, that's odd. Why is it telling me to knit the body on a size needle that's bigger than the size needles I'm using right now for the yoke? And then it dawned on me that I had read the pattern wrong when I went to put the needles back on, and I didn't read far enough into the pattern, and I started working on the yoke again in the needle size that you do the original ribbing on for the collar. So I had a minor panic attack at that moment, because there was no way I was gonna rip out an entire yoke of mohair held double. That just sounded like pure agony. And honestly, that was one of the big reasons why I had decided to pick this project back up, was because I was very reluctant to rip it out so that I could use the yarn for a different project. So when I realized that I had knit an entire section in the wrong needle size, I just about died, because I didn't know what I was gonna do. And the needle size was smaller, so the fabric I was afraid was gonna be really dense. But luckily, I looked at it pretty intensely to see if it was really gonna be super noticeable when it was all done and finished, and I just decided to go forward. I felt like it wasn't as big enough of a discrepancy, and I don't know if you can tell, but this is with the smaller needle, this is with the bigger needle. You can obviously see where the line is with the round that has the increases, but other than that, I don't think that the difference in gauge is so extreme that I wouldn't wear it. And for reference, here's the back of the cardigan, and honestly, yes, I will know, but I think it blends well enough that it's not going to be an issue, thank goodness. So that was my big scare with this, but I pushed forward, and I'm glad that I did, because I'm still very excited about it. I think it looks great. However, I did end up needing the needles for a different project that I also wanted to cast on that I needed on a large cable. And I have the same size needles that are needed for this project on a fixed needle, like a smaller needle set. So I took the needles from the body. I didn't finish the body. I'll just go back and finish it. I put that on hold, took those needles, started another project, which I'll show you in a minute. And I just went ahead and started working on the sleeves, which I almost never do. I know I see a lot of YouTubers who do, they split and then they knit just a tiny bit of the body and then they put that on hold and go to the sleeves. And I have never tried that before, so I figured it's a win-win. Why not? I'll give it a shot. And yeah, so hopefully I have this finished in the next couple of weeks. I'm really looking forward to wearing it. I'm really looking forward to having it for spring. I think it'll be a really nice, lightweight, but warm, like, sweater. And the color I think is going to be super versatile. So that is my first work in project. And I am going to say right now, I think in my last, not in my last video, the bow review, but the one before that, my last podcast, I had talked about how my yarn choices have been a little out there, and that some of the podcasters that I like the most on YouTube, or like the Instagram profiles that I'm drawn to the most, are neutral color oriented, and that I don't typically choose those kind of colors when I pick my own yarn. Well, all of a sudden now I have an excessive amount of neutral color yarn, so the tables have turned. So my next project that I casted on the day after Christmas is my Robinson's Wrap cardigan by Florence, of Florence Handmade. I think that's what she goes by. Handmade by Florence. So the story with this one, I did not ever see the tester call for this cardigan. But one day I was watching Florence in one of her YouTube videos, and she was talking about this pattern that she had designed and that it was being tested. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I missed that. I would have loved to have tested that. I really have been dying to make a wrap cardigan. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the ballerina wrap top, which actually Florence knit last year or earlier this year, and she showed in one of her podcast videos, and I loved it. She made it in this really cute light blue color. But she talked about how she had to do quite a few alterations to the pattern, and quite honestly, I just didn't feel like doing that, so I just figured I'd wait until somebody put on a pattern for a nice wrap top. And I have come across, I think it's called the Darling top, or the Darling cardigan by Knitting for Olive, and I love it so much and I want to make it, and I've even emailed them about it, but they don't offer the pattern in English, and English is the language that I speak, so I can't make it until it's translated into English. I think they might have a book with a bunch of their patterns in it, and I don't know if they offer that in English, but I don't think I would buy the book just for that pattern anyways, but I would really love to make it if it ever comes out in English. So the point is that when I saw that Florence had designed this pattern for a wrap top and it was really cute, I decided that as soon as the pattern was released, I was going to buy it and make it. I didn't have the yarn for it, and that was fine. I just figured I would get the yarn for it when the time came. And coincidentally, she released the pattern a couple of weeks ago, and while I was visiting my parents last week, my mom and I always go to this store that's in their little town. It's called Merchandise Outlet. It is the best bargain store I've ever gone to in my entire life. It basically is like it's like a one-shop outlet where stores like Kohl's and Target basically send all of the stuff that they don't sell. I'm assuming what happens is that they sell it to Merchandise Outlet, the corporation or the brand or whatever, for a significantly discounted price, and then, or for wholesale or whatever, I don't know. And then Merchandise Outlet sells it for a significantly decreased price than what it was originally sold for at Target or Kohl's or JCPenney, XYZ, whatever. And so we always go there whenever I'm in town, and because I don't know, it's fun. I love bargain shopping. I've said that before. I'm a sale fanatic. I love buying stuff on sale. It's probably borderline an addiction that I have under control. So we went, I found some stuff for my family members. I usually find stuff for my house, whatever. But they had some yarn. They always have a yarn section, but a lot of times it's like acrylic yarn, and I don't really buy that anymore. And not that anything is wrong with it, it's just a preference. I don't like it anymore. I prefer to knit with natural fibers, even if those natural fibers are not necessarily the best quality sourced. I like to think that I'm at least doing something better than buying a bunch of plastic yarn. So what they had and what I bought was Patons Classic Wool DK Superwash. And I know that sticker says $2.99. That's not even what I bought it at. It was on sale on top of that. So I got this for dirt cheap. I don't actually know how much it costs, like, normally, but even if that's its normal price, I'm still 100% content with that because it's 100% wool. And I'm gonna make this cardigan out of wool that I spent like $22 on total. And it's in this beautiful brown color. It's called Mocha. I don't know if it's kind of blown out a little bit, but it's pretty chocolatey and I like it. I mean, compared to like this sweater, it's very chocolatey and I love that. So I went ahead and I cast on, and I can't really show it very nicely, but you'll get the gist. I cast on my Robinson's wrap cardigan. Yeah, it's all kind of rolly right now because I'm still working on the yoke, but I'm thrilled with it, honestly, right now. I think that it is, fabric wise, it's knitting up really nicely. I think it has a really nice color to it. It doesn't look, I feel like it's not gonna really pill very much either. I don't know though, I've never worked with this yarn. And surprisingly, it is fairly soft once it's knit up. And I think once I block it, it's gonna be even softer. It's just surprising because when you feel it in the ball, it is scratchy, it's dry. It's nothing like, you know, it's even this, like, this is fairly soft. This feels like it would be really itchy. And my husband actually, when I came home with it, I was so excited, and I was like, look what I got, feel it. And he was like, isn't that gonna be a little itchy? And I was like, I don't even care. But so surprisingly, it has turned out to be, it's fairly soft. It's really, for a superwash yarn, it is scratchy as all sin, but I don't think I'm gonna have an issue. I think it would be, it's comparable to almost like this, and this has alpaca in it. So I think it was a steal. I'm really enjoying knitting on this so far. I'm really looking forward to this as a finished garment. But all in all, I think this is the project I'm most excited about right now. And it's probably the cheapest garment I'm knitting on right now. So yeah, I look forward to showing that hopefully in the next video. Hopefully I'll have this finished by the next video. I think the color is great. Hopefully it will be nice and soft like I think it is, or fairly soft enough to wear next to skin, because this is it's a fairly tight cardigan. I mean, it's like, it's right next to skin. I don't even think everybody that I have seen wearing it on Instagram hasn't even been wearing anything underneath it other than probably like a bra. So here's hoping it does turn out to be soft. It will be warm, and I will wear it regardless. And so next, after that, I think that's actually it for works in progress. I do have my Leilua shawl. I'm not gonna show it because I've only maybe done like 4 or 5 rows. I haven't made a significant amount of progress on it, and that is just because I've been excited about other stuff, and it takes a little more of my attention to work on it because it is cabling, and I've been out of town, so I've been visiting with my parents, and I'm not gonna sit there and look at a chart. Although actually when I went up there for Thanksgiving, that was all I worked on, so that's pretty hilarious. But anyways, so I'm gonna move on to my acquisitions. So my first acquisition was kind of like a congratulations gift to myself for making it through my first semester of nursing school. I had no reason to buy this yarn other than I wanted it, and I was feeling really good because I had just made it through school for the first semester. So I went to my yarn shop, and I really love baby alpaca yarn, but it's really expensive, obviously. I went in and I pretty much knew that that was what I wanted, and I wanted brown, so that's what I got. And this is actually the same yarn that I used for my spring vest, my number 2 vest spring edition by My Favorite Things Knitwear, only in a different color. And that actually, so now we can know what it is because I have the thing. It is Cascade yarns. It's Cascade yarns Eco Alpaca, undyed baby alpaca. And yeah, see, it was a treat for myself. So, and it just goes to show you, like, I definitely spent more on that vest than I intended to. My intention with that whole vest was to make something nice with like a little amount of yarn, and then I ended up having to buy a lot more than I thought. So that's pretty funny. But yeah, this is, I think, of all the yarns I've ever used, this is my favorite yarn. It's so soft. If you've never used it, oh, you should invest. If you're looking to make like a nice soft sweater and it's like gonna be a treat for yourself, I highly recommend considering this yarn if you can finagle it somehow. It's worth it. I wish I could. I can't afford to make a whole another sweater out of it, not even a vest. So I just bought the one. And my intention, I don't know if it's gonna pan out. I'm hoping that it does. I would like to make a pair of mittens with this. I originally planned on making the, what are they called? The gusset mittens by Pearl Soho. Emily from High Fiber Knits has made a pair for her boyfriend and talked about them in the last few episodes that she has posted on YouTube. I think it's called the gusset mittens. If not, then whatever. It's a free pattern with Pearl Soho. They're super cute. I really like them. That was my intention with this. But then, Paula Strict on Instagram was posting in her stories that she was testing and was about to release a pattern called her Ul mittens. And I fell in love with them. They I don't know how to explain them. They almost kind of have like a fisherman's rib or like a half fisherman's rib look about them, but it's like reversed. I don't know. I probably sound ridiculous. I have no idea what I'm saying, but I just really like them because they have a slight texture to them, almost like a half fisherman's rib or like a brioche. I don't actually know for sure. It might actually use those techniques. I'm not sure. And I'm not sure because what had happened is she released the pattern. I saw it. I was so excited. I went on Ravelry. I bought the pattern. I was going to make a swatch, like a gauge swatch, make sure this was going to meet it, and be on my way with these mittens. Well, like 20 seconds after I purchased the pattern, yeah, I realized that it was in, I think, German. She hadn't released it in English yet. It was only released in, I think, German. So I felt pretty dumb because obviously I don't speak German. And I did email her about it, because I don't know if it always works this way on Ravelry, where like if you purchase a pattern and it's only released in certain languages, but then later on it is released in more languages, if it just updates on its own and you receive those, I think it might, because I know PetiteKnit always does that whenever she releases it in another language, but I wasn't sure if they were all like that. So I emailed Paula, and I actually just received an email today about it with the English pattern, and I'm not sure if she sent it just to me or if it was exactly what I was just talking about where Ravelry updated it, but yeah, so I haven't even looked at it yet. I saw that I had the email. I was already like on track to start doing this. So my intention is to do a gauge swatch with this yarn for those mittens, the old mittens, and hopefully that's what I'll have. And if not, then I'm going to go for the arched gusset mittens. That's what they're called, by Pearl Soho. So that will be hopefully something to come soon. So my next acquisition is a fun one, and excuse the crinkling, they're still in the gift wrapping because I thought it would be nice to show it this way. This was one of my big gifts from my father-in-law, and I talked about this in my last video that with my with my in-laws, my husband's family, we basically pick out our own gifts and wrap them and pretend like it's a surprise. So I picked this out, but it is from my father-in-law, so thank you to him. And here they are. Oh, they're so pretty. So I got, the intention for this yarn is that I really want to make the sweater number 15 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I love it. I think it's a really nice oversized sweater. I love when I see the pictures on Instagram where people have like the sleeves like roll up, but they're still like normal length. I don't know, it just has a very I don't know, like a masculine feminine vibe, and I like that. And I don't have a cabled sweater. I think that it's engaging but not too engaging. I just really like it, so I really wanted to make it. I hope I got enough yarn. I'm pretty sure I did, but I decided to go with Knitting for Olive Merino in the color Soft Blue. And I'm gonna hold Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair, also in Soft Blue. I don't know. I just thought that it would be a really nice soft color that I could wear fall, winter, spring, you know, and it wouldn't clash. And I haven't used Knitting for Olive regular merino yet. I've only used the heavy merino, which I really liked. So I'm excited to use this. And I have used the Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair. It's definitely softer than Drops. But yeah, I as much as I want this sweater though, I am not motivated to cast it on at the moment. I actually wouldn't be surprised if I don't start working on this sweater until fall of 2023, which is fine because I'm happy to have like the yarn to kickstart my sweater knitting next fall. Who knows though, I might get inspired. I might finish up the 2 cardigans that I'm working on right now and want to make one more big sweater before the season is over. But I have a feeling that I'm going to be pretty busy with school. So I might move on to spring and summer knits a little bit sooner than I did last year or this year. Either which way, very excited about this yarn. So thank you to my father-in-law. And to break it up with yarn, my next acquisition is something that I have been wanting for a while. I had considered buying them for myself a few times and I just never did. But I bought, or I didn't buy, this was a gift from my sister-in-law for Christmas. I had her get me a set of ChiaoGoo shorties, and I own ChiaoGoo needles, but they're fixed needles and I've really come to love them. But I only have them, all of my ChiaoGoo fixed needles they're like 3 millimeters. I think I have a 2.25, a 2.5, and a 3 millimeter ChiaoGoo fixed, but they're like really long cables. So anytime I knit with them, I have to do magic loop, which is fine for the most part, but I wanted to be able to have the option to just have a short cord. So I thought I'd give them a shot. If I don't use them, I mean, I'd be surprised, but I'm very excited. I think I will most likely use this length versus this length. because in the set, if you don't own a set, or if you don't know about the sets, they come with two, hold on. They come with 2 sets of each size needle, but the length of the needles themselves are not the same. So this is a 2mm needle, but this is also a 2mm needle. So you get 2 sizes. And I don't know what the purpose of that is. I don't know if somebody uses one size or the other and has a preference of why. Shoot me a comment, let me know. I'm not really sure. My whole intention was just honestly that I wanted to be able to have shorter cords to work like socks. And who knows, I've seen some other knitters that say that they only like working socks on magic loop. And that might be the case. I might end up being one of those people too, but I just figured I would never know unless I tried. So I'm sure I'll find a use for these one way or another, but there are the cords. They are significantly shorter than the ones that I have on my fixed needles. The way I see it is you can never have too many needles, especially interchangeable needle sets. My Luca, I think that's how you pronounce it, Luca interchangeable needle set is a godsend. I invested in that needle set back during COVID when I when I like really decided that I was gonna be a knitter. And it is, I can't even imagine not having it, honestly. So if you're on the fence about an interchangeable needle set one way or another, I highly recommend it. I eventually would like to get a full-size interchangeable needle set for I think, what are the sizes? You know, like the more traditional sizes, not the small ones like those Chalgus are, but like with my Luca set, it goes from US 4 to US 17. I don't really ever use the super large sizes, but I do use the US 4s to the US 8s quite a lot. So I'd love to have an interchangeable needle set that's metal, that's in those sizes. I don't know if Chalgu offers that, but I think I'd like to get it in Chalgu. We'll see though, that's for later days. And I think, oh, and then my next acquisition is my gift, my Christmas gift from my mother-in-law. And it's more yarn. This time it's all drops. And I had so much fun wrapping this stuff for myself. I thought it looked so pretty. So my intention with this yarn is I follow an account on Instagram. Oh goodness, and I can't remember what it's called. I can't remember her name. I don't think she's a YouTuber. I think she's just on Instagram. I'll try to put it in here somewhere after when I'm editing. But I love her style. She makes really beautiful projects. And right before Christmas, she had posted a picture, or like a series of pictures, where she had knit the Sophie shawl, and she made it in alpaca boucle, in white alpaca boucle. So I thought that was really kind of interesting because I don't think I had seen that yet, and I really do want to make a Sophie shawl, but I just didn't feel like buying the yarn for it. Like I wasn't motivated with a whole bunch of other yarns to make it. I don't know. But then when I saw that, I was like, oh, that would be really cool. So I purchased, and I had, coincidentally, at the time, I was also getting ready to make the purchase for the other yarn that was in this gift. From, you know, it was all from the same place. So I just added this in and it worked out well. So, I did though, when I purchased this is another case of like, I bought yarn online and the picture was very misleading. And I don't say that in a negative connotation. Like I don't blame the store that I bought it from. I know that happens a lot online, and that's totally okay. It's not a big deal. I'm gonna use it. I still really like it, but online it looked closer to like this dark brown. It looked really dark, which I was really excited about. And when it showed up, I actually thought it looked so different from the picture online that I thought that they had sent me the wrong yarn. And I checked, and it's not, and that's okay. It's still brown. I still like it. I'm still gonna use it. It's probably a good thing that it wasn't that dark brown, because I feel like now that I have this and the Robinson's cardigan wrap in that dark brown, I don't really need any more of it, and this will be nice to work with. So I got 4 of these. I think that's enough yardage. I hope it is. I think there's 2 sizes for the Sophie shawl, so hopefully it's enough for the larger one. If not, I know that I've heard she puts directions in her pattern for you to figure out how to do it with whatever amount you have anyways. So that's what I have. I'm excited about it. I don't know what I'm going to cast it on. It's not like on the forefront of my plans, but I am excited about it. And then the main gift was this Drops Flora in the color Caramel. I've not used Drops Flora before. It feels fairly soft. It's a fingering weight, and it is 65% wool and 35% alpaca. It's 50 grams with 210 meters. It is not the color I wanted. It is the color that it showed online. I knew this is what I was getting. When I went looking, I was looking for more of, actually what I wanted was more of like this color brown. Or like more of a chocolatey brown, like a light chocolatey brown, like a milk chocolate brown, you know? And they didn't have that. And I just wasn't in love with any of the other colors. Or the couple of colors that I did like, they were out of stock. So it was what it was. This was actually a new color for this line, for the Flora. And I liked it. I don't have anything in this color. I just figured I'd give it a shot. I'd be able to make something out of it. I don't know. And then I got Kid Silk from Drops in the color Almond. I figured they'd pair nicely. This I was hoping would kind of mute down some of the intenseness of the Caramel Flora. My plan right now, and again, this might not be made this year either. This might not be made until, and by this year I mean like this winter. This might not be something I cast on until the fall, but we'll see. I might get really motivated. It's hard to say. But my intention, when I bought this yarn, what I was gauging it for, because when I was looking, I was like, I just want to get some yarn that I'll use, but I want to get an idea of what sweaters out there it would potentially meet gauge for. And the one sweater that I found a bunch that it would be fine for, because it's a fingering with a mohair, so it meets a lot. But the one sweater that I had actually in my Ravelry for a while, and I had wanted to make a while back, and I still think I'd really like to make, is the balloon sweater by PetiteKnit. I clearly have a thing for like balloon sleeves. I mean, I'm wearing a balloon sleeved sweater right now. And I think her sample is like, it's not this color. It's it's like this color, but like way less dramatic. It's not this, because this is brown. It's like a beige, I guess, but like a beige with a hint of caramel in it. And I really like it. So I'm thinking maybe, I think I need to make a swatch and see how these work together. But that might be what this becomes. If not, there are plenty of other patterns out there. And by the time I get to it, I'm sure there will be plenty more. But I like the color. That's all that matters. I definitely was vibing with browns this month. I'm very happy with all of my yarn acquisitions. And my last acquisition is a gift from my father for Christmas. And I had no idea what it was, to be quite honest. I received it's called a knitting belt. If you've ever seen one of these or used one of these, please shoot me a comment and let me know how it works for you. I am 100% new to this. I've never seen this. I've never used one of these. I've done a little bit of research in the last couple of days about it, but it's interesting. The history behind it. Let's see. The store that my dad had bought it from had sent some literature, I guess, with it. And it sounds like what they're used for is for basically to help people prevent or to help people who already have arthritis, stuff like that, like painful wrist, tennis elbow, whatever, knit and it not be as painful, because you basically you put the belt, like a belt, around your waist, and then you take your needles. It's a double pointed needle kind of thing, and you put it into the belt, and then it is almost like a lever, I think. I haven't tried it yet, but from what I've seen, it kind of works as like a lever. I don't know. I haven't done it. So if you have any advice, if you know how to use it, please reach out to me. The other thing is that, like I said, it is a double pointed needle mechanism, and I don't use double pointed needles. I've never used double pointed needles, so I'm gonna have to learn how to use double pointed needles to use it. But I am excited about it because I do tend to get tennis elbow. I'm not like diagnosed with it or anything, but I do get pain in my elbows. And I do also tend to, I don't want to say get pain in my wrist, but it almost like after I've been knitting for a while, my wrists start to crack. So, which is kind of, it's not painful, but it's like, nobody likes to hear that. It's just alarming. So I am excited to try this out and see if it does help those things. What was her name? And Karen, the woman who owns the shop that my dad bought these from, was super sweet. And I think she actually sent all of these needles with my belt for free, which was very sweet. Thank you so much, Karen, if you're watching. And she sent these cute little, they're called Portuguese knitting pins. I don't know what these are either. Maybe I don't know as much about knitting as I thought I did. But thank you, Karen. I really appreciated your note. I really appreciated all the little gifts, and I'm very excited to, I don't know what that's used for. I'm very excited to try it out. If you have any advice for me on how to get started with them, I would appreciate it. yeah, so that was a gift from my dad. He was very excited to give it to me because he usually gets me gifts like fly fishing poles or, you know, camo hunting vests. I'm the son that he had a son, he has a son, but he wanted 2 sons, I think. So he buys me a lot of stuff like that, which is fine because I do hunt and I do fish, but not as much as he'd like me to. So I really appreciated that he went out of his way to get me a gift that was oriented with the things that I personally really love in my life. So that is it. That is everything that I am currently knitting in, everything that I've recently finished, and all of my new acquisitions from the holiday. I know this is a long video, so I really appreciate anybody who has hung out with me this whole time, and I hope you enjoyed. I hope everybody has a happy new year and spends it with their loved ones. Until next time, have a good one.